You're listening to Noir Whispers, a place where the dark speaks and the truth hides in whispers. Today's story, The Dark Secret of Ravenwood. Let's begin. Nestled in the remote hills of Tennessee, the small town of Ravenwood appeared on the surface to be a serene and picturesque community. With its charming main street, friendly residents, and the rolling countryside that seemed to stretch endlessly beyond the horizon, it was a place where everyone knew each other's names and neighbors often left their doors unlocked. But beneath this tranquil facade lay a dark and chilling secret that would eventually unravel the very fabric of this tight-knit community. The story began in the fall of 2005, when a series of inexplicable disappearances started to unsettle the town's residents. Over a span of 6 months, 5 people vanished without a trace. There was no apparent connection between them. Different ages, different backgrounds, different parts of town. Yet their fates were eerily similar. The locals whispered about the possibility of a serial predator in their midst, but the idea seemed too unfathomable in their peaceful town. One of the missing was Sarah Mitchell, a popular local high school teacher known for her dedication to her students and her infectious laugh. When she failed to show up for Class 1 crisp October morning, the alarm bells started ringing. Her disappearance was the fourth in a string of mysteries that were beginning to bleed into the town's consciousness. The police search was extensive, involving the entire community and resources from neighboring counties, but it yielded nothing. Sarah had vanished as if she had never existed. The police, led by Sheriff Tom Hicks, were under immense pressure to solve the mystery. Sheriff Hicks, a local boy himself, had always prided himself on maintaining the peace in Ravenwood. Now, he was faced with the first serious challenge of his career. With little to go on, the investigation relied heavily on tips and sightings, yet none led to any concrete evidence. As the weeks turned into months, fear began to seep into the daily lives of Ravenwood's residents. Parents no longer let their children play outside unsupervised, and businesses closed earlier than usual. The town was on edge, its once vibrant streets now eerie with a sense of paranoia. Desperate for answers, the community turned to its legends and folklore, clinging to any explanation, however supernatural, that could make sense of the terrifying events. In the heart of the investigation was Detective Carla Morales, an outsider who had recently moved to Ravenwood from Los Angeles in search of a quieter life. Morales was known for her relentless pursuit of justice and her keen analytical mind. Despite being new to the town, she quickly became absorbed in the case, driven by a personal vendetta against unsolved mysteries. Morales found herself intrigued by the tales of the Ravenwood Ripper, a ghost story told to entertain children during campfires. According to the legend, a figure cloaked in darkness haunted the woods surrounding the town, spiriting away victims never to be seen again. Most dismissed it as mere folklore, but for Morales, no stone could be left unturned. She wondered if there was a kernel of truth hidden within the myth, a clue left behind by a real-world counterpart. Her investigation took a turn when she stumbled upon old police files from the 1970s, detailing a similar pattern of disappearances over a decade. These cases had remained unsolved, and were eerily similar to the current spree. Could there be a connection? Were they dealing with the same person? Or perhaps a copycat? Morales visited the families of the 1970s victims, hoping to find some overlooked detail. Most of the relatives had long since moved on, but a few remained, holding on to their grief and anger like a badge of honor. It was from one such family that she learned about a reclusive man named Edgar Collins, known to local lore as an eccentric loner living in the woods. Collins had been a suspect back in the 70s, largely due to his preference for solitude and the strange hours he kept. Despite exhaustive questioning, no evidence had ever been found linking him to the disappearances. He had since faded into obscurity, becoming more of a boogeyman in children's tales than a real threat. You are listening on NoirWhisper channel. Determined to pursue every lead, Morales set out to find Collins, now an old man living in the same dilapidated cabin deep in the forest. Her trek through the woods was treacherous, the path overgrown and barely visible. echoing the town's reluctance to confront its darker history. When she finally found him, Collins was a shadow of the monster she had imagined, a frail, bewildered man who seemed more confused than menacing. In their conversation, Collins admitted to being haunted by the memories of those years, the accusations that had tainted his life. He fervently denied any involvement in the disappearances, insisting he was merely a misunderstood soul seeking solace in nature. Despite his protests, there was something in his eyes, a flicker of fear or perhaps guilt, that Morales couldn't dismiss. Returning to the town, Morales pieced together the timeline of both the past and present cases. Her instincts told her that Collins knew more than he was letting on, but she also suspected he might not be the perpetrator. To find the truth, she needed to look beyond the obvious, to see if the town itself held the key to the mystery. It was during a town meeting, called by Sheriff Hicks to reassure the restless community, that Morales found her breakthrough. A conversation with an old librarian, Miss Grace, revealed a surprising bit of information. In the late 1960s, a series of unusual land purchases had occurred, involving large swathes of forest surrounding Ravenwood. The transactions were linked to a company that had since dissolved, but the names on the deeds were familiar locals who had left town abruptly after the disappearances. Digging deeper, Morales uncovered a clandestine operation. A group of influential townsfolk had been running an illegal logging operation, using the remoteness of the forest as cover. The disappearances, she theorized, were not random acts of violence but calculated moves to protect their secret enterprise. Those who stumbled upon the operation were silenced, their vanishings disguised as part of the town's chilling legend. Confronting Sheriff Hicks, Morales laid out her findings. The sheriff, visibly shaken, confessed to having known of the operation but claimed he had been coerced into silence by threats against his family. The revelation sent shockwaves through Ravenwood, unraveling decades of deceit and corruption. In the aftermath, the illegal activities were exposed, and those involved were brought to justice. Edgar Collins, finally vindicated, was offered a chance to reintegrate into society, although he chose to remain in his solitude. As for Ravenwood, the scars of its past remained visible, but with the truth finally uncovered, the town began to heal. The story of Ravenwood serves as a haunting reminder of how darkness can lurk beneath the most idyllic surfaces, and how the truth, though buried for years, will eventually come to light. Even in a place as seemingly tranquil as Ravenwood, secrets have a way of finding their voice. You've been listening to Noir Whispers. If the shadows intrigued you, don't forget to subscribe for more stories just like this.